So in today's video, let's create some scenes that look like these with just two really inexpensive lights. So since not everybody has access to big, fancy, expensive lighting, I wanted to make this exercise as accessible as possible. So the two lights that I'm going to be utilizing in this video are my two Luxio wand lights. Now, one of them here is a bicolor, so it's 56 and 3200 Kelvin, and this one is a multicolor. So it has daylight and tungsten, but also like red, blue, purple, teal, etc. So for full transparency, there will be other things that I'll be utilizing in this video other than just purely those two lights. So here are some other pieces of gear that I'll be utilizing to light these scenes. Light stands, obviously, a 5-in-1 reflector, practical lamps, and haze in a can. I might end up using this just to create some light streaks and to give a little bit of a softer look. Lastly, since these lights that I'm going to be using are not super powerful, it is going to be really helpful if you're using a lens that can let in a good amount of light. So if you're using a kit lens or something like that that doesn't have a very wide aperture, you might not be able to recreate these scenes that easily, but I'm going to be doing all of these scenes with this little 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8. Nice thing about this is that it's only like $70 and it comes for a lot of different mounts like Canon EOS M, Fuji X, Sony E, and of course, Micro Four Thirds. So let's start with this first shot of me playing my guitar on my bed. It's really simple. I shot everything with the 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8, and I used the two Luxio wand lights to light this scene. So one thing that I always do whenever I'm creating a sequence like this is I always start with the wide shot, light the wide shot, and then I kind of move in and start lighting the close-ups, because it's a lot easier to do it that way, because once you have the wide shot lit, all you have to do is just move the lights in a little bit closer and adjust the intensity. But you'll notice straight out the gate that there are two other light sources, the sun coming through the window and a practical lamp on behind me. So I'm going to use both of those to motivate my light. Firstly, for my key light, what I did is I took one of my Luxio wand lights and I wanted to make it bigger and softer, and so what I did was I basically just shined it onto the white door of my closet. What that did is it bounced the light and created a softer light on me, and what that kind of was doing was I kind of thought of it as maybe the light was coming through the window and bouncing off of my closet door, and that's what was lighting my face. And then as you can see in this shot here, there is a lamp behind me. So what I did is I took the other Luxio wand light, turned it to the tungsten setting, and I just kind of blasted that on the back of my head, creating more of an edge light for me, and that was motivated by the lamp on behind me. So yeah, that's all I did to light this scene. It was super simple. It took me a little while to figure out how I was going to get the light soft enough on my face, because our room isn't super big. In fact, my whole apartment is pretty small, so it's been kind of a fun challenge to see what kind of scenes I can create in such a small space. Real quick, I would like to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Film Convert. If you haven't heard of Film Convert before, it is a color grading and film emulation plugin that allows you to emulate film stocks on your digital video, as well as add real film grain. I've been using it for a little over 2 years now, and it is my go-to plugin for color grading. I use it in Adobe Premiere Pro, but it's also available for DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro. What's really cool is that the film emulations are actually designed for your specific camera and color profile. And that's really cool for me because I've used and owned a lot of different cameras, and so I can just go to the Film Convert's website, download the camera pack for whatever camera I currently own. And they have support for basically any camera out there, anything from like an iPhone to a Red Komodo. I use it to grade basically all of my videos here on YouTube, and all the sequences that you've seen in this video were graded with Film Convert Nitrate. The really cool thing is that the awesome people at Film Convert are giving my viewers 10% off their purchase of Film Convert Nitrate. All you have to do is put in the discount code NigelBarros at checkout and you'll get 10% off your purchase. Once again, big thanks to Film Convert for sponsoring this video. So for this next shot, I wanted to keep it pretty simple and just make it look like I was sitting down watching TV. And overall, I kind of like how this shot looks. There is one mistake, which I'll get to, but the way I lit it was pretty simple. I just got the diffusion part of my 5-in-1 reflector and just shot one of my Luxio wand lights through that, which is actually how I'm lighting myself right now. I also got the other Luxio wand light and I turned it to a tealish green tone and I put it in the bedroom behind me. And what that did is it created layers within this shot, which I really liked. So you have me in the foreground, you have that practical on a little bit in the background, and then you can see down the hall into my room, which is where the tealish green light is coming from. So there's a little bit of layers to this shot, which I really like. The one thing that I don't like is that you can see light spill out of the 5-in-1 reflector on the wall behind me. I didn't notice that until I'd taken all my lights down, but yeah, that's the one thing that I would fix if I was gonna go shoot this again, was just make sure that that light didn't spill onto the wall the way that it is. I kind of like how soft the light is on my face, and I like all of the colors within the shot as well. And if we go into the close-up shot, it's the exact same thing. I actually like this shot a little bit better, and you can still see the green in the background. You can still see my face, which is pretty much backlit, but it still wraps around my face on the camera side. And then you have the practical on. The only thing that I would change, if I could add one more light to this setup, is I would put another kicker light hitting the left-hand side of my head. That would kind of emulate that practical light. But other than that, I think that this turned out pretty good. So for this last sequence, I actually tried out a few different lighting setups, but I ended up on this sequence of me in my kitchen drinking some coffee. And this is another scene where I feel like limiting myself to only using 2 lights was kind of hard, because I wish I just had one more light to act as another little kicker or a fill light. So this setup was pretty simple. I did the same technique where I shot my Luxio wand light through the 5-in-1 deflector, and that gave me a really nice soft key source. And since you can't really see what's on the other side of my kitchen, I kind of just wanted to make it look like there was some natural light coming into my apartment. Since I didn't want the rest of the kitchen to just fall off into darkness, I put my other Luxio wand light right under the stove hood, and I just kind of tucked it under there, and I turned it to a tungsten temperature because that's typically what's found on those stove lights. The stove light that I had in there was just a little bit too bright, and there's no way to dim it, obviously, so I just used one of my Luxios to put under there just to add a little bit of color. And then you can see behind me on the left-hand side of this frame that there is a practical on, and that's actually kind of adding a little bit of fill in the background. There isn't a lot of light on that side of the frame, but it's still better than nothing. For the close-up shot on the coffee mug, this is where I really wish I had another light again to put on the left side of the frame and just kind of pop it from the background a little bit more. But the way that I framed it made it so that the outline of the coffee was right behind the white outline in the kitchen, so you could easily see the shape of the coffee mug. And for all these shots, they're essentially the exact same lighting setup, but the only things that I may have changed was the intensity and the distance of the modifier and the light. But yeah, that's how I have been practicing my lighting, using just 2 really cheap lights. As you can see, if you're like me and you don't have a lot of space to work with, you can still practice some lighting setups using really modest gear. Anyways, I think that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and big thanks to Film Convert for sponsoring it. And if you would like to watch some more of my videos, you can click on either side of my face. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll catch y'all next time. Later.